back to like ego, right?
Yeah.
Because you're thinking you're being reserved, you're being humble, but no, like there's false humility.
Yeah.
Because if I spoke up, I probably would have learned a lot more in my life. If I spoke up, because then I would have been corrected. I would have not cared about the embarrassment. I would have been more concerned about growth rather than being right.
I mean, that's so important when we're talking about putting yourself out there and allowing mistakes to happen.
Yeah.
Right? Yo, thanks for locking in and welcome back to Gym Life. We got Jyima and Sophia here.
So I got a question for you.
What's the question?
Can I change?
We gonna figure that out. Let's vibe out.
Hey. Oh, okay. Hold on. What we doing? Are we working out or we dancing?
So I had to see if my dance moves had gotten a little sharper than last time. You know what I'm saying? We're going right into our warm-up. Okay. I figure we jump right into it today because we got like some serious discussions to get into today.
Let's get into it. So
I think being in the line of work that we're in, dealing with people every day, we hear a common question is whether or not they have the ability to change, right? And sometimes it's not a question, it's like, I'm just this, I'm not a morning person, right? Or I'm not a workout person, or I'm not this. So a lot of times it's us getting people to make changes. And I think what's always important is drawing from personal experience and things obstacles we've had to overcome to be able to make changes. So I would ask you, hold down to full body. Aside from, even if it includes exercise, just to think about it, I'll go first. Something that when you were younger or even just not too long ago, you've always wanted to change about yourself. It took a lot of time and energy and effort. Right? For me, as I was thinking about it, specifically, and it's such a weird one, is because I'm so big on being humble and understanding that we don't know everything, leaving room for other people. That I used to have, I don't have it anymore. Is I've always felt the need to convince people that they don't know everything. So I would
repeat after me.
I don't know.
Say it.
Say it with me. Say it with me. And it's still very passionate to me. And then we'll go standing quiet. It's still a very, very passionate thing to me to understand that we don't know everything, right? But before, I would I would leave the discussion almost like extremely annoyed that this person couldn't grasp that they don't know everything, right? And I would find myself in these long, drawn out discussions, right? Where I'd be like, I get your point of view. And the minute you start to impose that point of view on me or other people is when you're wrong. Right? So you could go and say, well, I believe that, let's say, Democrats don't have a point of view on any particular ideology, right? And I'm like, that's great. And but they're gonna ruin the country. Now stop, right? You don't know that.
Pause.
You don't know that. I totally get you having that point of view, totally get you having that opinion, right? And then we'll squat pivot. But the minute you start to say it like fact, right? And then people will start to get into the throwing a bunch of facts that support their opinion, and then I'm really engrossed in this conversation now. Those are just facts to support your opinion. That's not the truth. And then it would literally have me leaving, even if it's somebody that I'm close to, because sometimes it happens with family members.
Oh yeah, for sure. The people closest to you.
People closest to you. I would leave that conversation, for days. Why do they think they know?
Bothered.
Nobody knows everything. But you think you know what's best for everyone? That's ridiculous. And then I would think of different ways to say the same thing. And then after a while, I realized that it's not that they don't understand, it's that they don't want to understand.
They don't want to.
They don't want to understand. understand. So that was very, very tough for me to sit with.
Yeah.
But it took a long time. And even now, it's not that the feeling goes away, which is important, right?
Right.
It's just when the feeling comes, I just let it go.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's one of the biggest things to learn about when we're making a change is that we're not going to change the feeling that comes, and we'll go chest opener.
Yeah.
It's whether or not we act on it. Then eventually it gets smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
So for me, the feeling is not it doesn't burn as much as it did before.
It doesn't bother as much.
No.
Yeah.
And I think part of it comes from my heritage. And I say this where, if anybody knows Africans love to argue.
Ooh.
I had to fight that from when I was younger.
Right. Wake up arguing.
Wake up.
Go to bed
wake up.
arguing.
What do you mean? Huh? And they'll sit there and they'll go on day to day. So that was, I think, part of my culture and part of my DNA. And then finally, as I got older, I was able to kind of make that change.
Yeah.
How about you?
Man, we're going there, huh? I did want to say, I think that at this point in my life, I really think that making a change, first of all, has a lot to do with how bad do you want to make that change? Like, what's the driving force behind that?
That's big.
Change?
Real quick. Today's all body weight.
Okay.
Right? So we're going to go lunge, hop.
Okay.
Lunge, hop on the left and right.
Okay.
After that, we're going to go plank to downward dog for 10. Remember, everything's always 10.
Okay.
And then we're going to go squat jumps, down and up for 10.
Okay.
And then we got shoulder taps where we're down here for 10. All right? All body weight today.
Cardio.
Everything's 10. Cardio based.
Cardio.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
We're on it. So, okay, so go ahead. That was a nice point that I liked you were getting into. We'll go lunge, hop first. So you said that.
Yeah. I think it's how bad do you want to make that change, and that it is a choice that you make, right?
Okay.
Everything is a choice. So for me, when we talk about what is really personal, there's a lot of, when we talk about childhood trauma, there's a lot when I think about it, but something that has been recently brought to my attention that I've realized really is, for me, it was more, not that it was like a specific event or like abuse as a kid, because I was really, I had a great childhood.
Okay.
But what I do realize as when I was growing up, I suppressed myself a lot from expressing myself. Whether it's because it was a cultural thing, being from the Philippines. Second, me being a pastor's kid. So it was always had eyes on me. And then me being the oldest of four. So it was all those things that I felt like I had that pressure to really watch what I say, like suppress my self-expression, because you're not supposed to be vocal about these things.
Squat jumps.
Yeah, and I'm just getting to a point in my life where I'm just starting to become more vocal, you know? And it's like, when we talk about, can I make that change? Of course I can. It's just how badly do I want to evolve, and how sick and tired am I of being suppressed, like of suppressing myself.
Yeah.
You know, so I always have to make that choice to speak up. And it's not always easy, because now I got to go against the grain of what I'm programmed. You know, like what I've been programmed as a child. So, and that's crazy, because a lot of things that we're going to talk about as changes has a lot to do with our childhood, our upbringing, and that's deep.
I mean, it's our programming. So a lot of times, and both of us have that, right? So we have that feeling that comes out, whether it's the feeling to do something, or in your case, that feeling to suppress. Yeah. Right? So it's almost like fighting against the programming that we already have. Yeah. So it's making that acknowledgement that there is a block. Yeah. Almost that's there. Yeah. If we try to say, and I think we've seen this before, when we're like, I'm fine, I could just change. Right. That's when it becomes an issue. Right. We have to realize that there's a block there. Yeah. What adjustments did you make? So first of all, which I love, which is true, is that I think for me, the biggest thing was after I left, I was like, it doesn't matter how passionate I feel about it. It's not going to change these people's mind. Right. It was after some time, and I'm like, why even go down that road as much? Yeah. Right? Yeah. So I would say for you, what was the thing that really made you say, I need to work on speaking up? Yeah. Or, you know?
I think whether it's your case or mine, I think ultimately you always want to go towards reaching a point of a place where you're at peace.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that's the driving force. So for you, it's like you had to reach a point where you're at peace.
Yeah.
So you had to let that go.
Yeah.
And allow people to just be. You know, especially when you can see that they made up their mind already. That's a choice on them too.
Yeah,
Like that's their choice to stick with that perception.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like, okay, I gotta come to peace with how I live my life and how I express myself. So if something's bothering me and I know I've been suppressing myself, I'm not at peace.
Yeah.
Because I'm not being my authentic self.
Yeah.
So how do I continue that to go down that path of being my authentic self and be at
So
peace?
you felt that.
Yeah,
you
definitely felt that calling. Especially being an artist, like I gotta express myself.
You have
that takes
to.
a lot of vulnerability and that takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of practice. So it's like, how willing am I able to? Do I want to make that change? And how much work am I like willing to put in?
Willing to put into
you
that.
know? Yeah.
And then also too, it's not overreacting. Right? So it's like now there's going to be, it's not that I don't say anything anymore. It's I'm a little more selective when that feeling comes.
Yeah.
So it's not like, and I think what happens is you get this pendulum effect where it's like I want to make a change. I go all the way to this extreme. And then because that makes me tired, then I swing all the way, and you just keep swinging back and forth.
Yeah.
So in my case, it would be, okay, well, I'm just not going to say anything anymore.
Right.
But then there could be a time when someone was open to that dialogue. And then I ignored it.
Yeah.
You know? So for you, I guess it would be, you can't be not every minute. Yo, you
right.
know
No,
what?
I
You know how
gotta say, because I've been to all my life. Now I gotta speak up. And they're like, chill. Like, wait, where did this come from? It's not even that serious.
Yeah.
It's like, my God. And then everything. Then I'm just acting out. I'm just out here being triggered.
Yeah.
You know, and overcompensating for all the years. Like, I'm just trying to make up for all the years that I suppressed myself. Like, you don't want to get to that extreme, right? Like,
you're trying to make up for everything.
Like, this is very serious for me. Like, I'm trying to make up for all those years. Like,
they didn't listen to me. Now you're
gonna listen. Like, damn, like I wasn't part of your childhood. Like, why are you making me? You know. That's
important. What stories do you think you told yourself, or what beliefs did you have around speaking up? Right? Because there's usually something where it's like it's never just the action. It's like, if I do this action, this will happen. That's why I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, for sure. Oh,
right?
I know.
So what would be the thing you had around speaking up that you believed if you spoke up would be something negative, I guess?
I had to get over the fear of being wrong.
Okay.
Because to me, it was always about how people perceive me. So if I speak up, it better be right. I better be proven right. Yeah. Which is so. It's back to like ego, right?
Yeah.
Because you're thinking you're being reserved, you're being humble, but no, like there's false humility.
Yeah.
Because if I spoke up, I probably would have learned a lot more in my life. If I spoke up, because then I would have been corrected. I would have not cared about the embarrassment. I would have been more concerned about growth rather than being right.
I mean, that's so important when we're talking about putting yourself out there and allowing mistakes to happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is, it's funny, I've done intakes before where I'll have a client come in and they're like, I don't want to work out around other people because I know they're gonna look, or I know I'm gonna mess up.
Yeah.
So it's almost that story around, if I go there and don't look the part, then people are gonna judge me, and then it's like, then you don't have any growth in that aspect.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's a story you tell yourself.
Which is big. And we'll go 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. We get the other side. And I think when it comes to fitness, I think that's where the stories become like endless. Whether it's to start a fitness program, whether it's to even make an adjustment, where it could be somebody who's in really good shape. So I'm not even gonna we'll go to the more typical one, or I say the one that we see more often, and I'll go to one that I've seen rarely, but does happen.
Yeah.
3, 2, and 1. Where it would be somebody who's in pretty decent shape, and they know a lot. They've done a lot of research.
Yeah.
And they've reached a point where they're not gaining as much success. And then they don't want to make a change because they don't want to appear like they don't know what they're doing because they're the one that everybody looks to as far as being in the in shape one.
Right.
Which I've seen, which is so interesting.
Right.
And I think that could happen in any profession or any expertise where it's like because you're very good at something, you feel like you can't ask for help.
Right.
Or you can't make a change to what you're doing.
Right.
So you keep pushing down this wall that's not moving, or trying to push down this wall that's not moving, because you're like, well, my way is gonna work. It's worked before.
Right.
Well, it's not working anymore.
Right. It's not. It worked out for that season. This season in your life, it's not. It's no longer benefiting you.
Yeah.
You know, and then that goes back to, I think I was gonna say earlier too, I think it goes back to who or what you associate yourself with and what you identify, how you what you take on as your identity, because you hear, how many times do you hear people say, oh, I'm just not the type to work out. I'm just not the type to, like, I'm just not the type to, I'm always angry. Like, that's just me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how many times do you hear those excuses? Like, no, that's not who you are.
Yeah.
You chose that.
You chose that.
You chose that. And so, like, you, especially when it comes to relationships, you know, oh, well, that's just how I am. So take it or leave it. Relationship is over. Like, you're basically asking for it to be over because you literally associated yourself to that as being that.
Yeah.
So really, that's a decision. That's a choice that you're making to not change.
Squat jumps.
Right?
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. That's just how I am. How often have we heard that? I'm not a morning person. I can't eat those foods.
Right.
I need to, whatever it is, I'm a workaholic, whatever. That's just how I am.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the major commentaries that needs to be addressed when we're trying to make a change. Is kind of like letting go.
Right.
You can start with a blank slate whenever you want.
Oh, for sure.
Right? So it's like, let's say you're a person who considers yourself, let's say, a night person, even though you should be able to get up early in the morning, but you stay up late doing things that are not necessarily in alignment with who you want to be, right? But then you say, well, I'm just a night person. I think if you just kind of let go of that perception of yourself, just let it go for a week. A week, maybe a month.
Right.
And then start building from there, right? Which is huge.
Or if it's something that runs in the family, a lot of times we attribute those.
Do we do shoulder taps? Shoulder taps.
Not yet. A lot of times we attribute those traits to our family. Like, oh, that's just how I grew up. That's how I was brought up. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's how that is like sometimes the biggest like downfall for people, because you literally just used your, you're like, oh, that's just how I was brought up. I just never grew up that way. So therefore, this is how I am.
Yeah.
I'm always going to be.
There was a podcast, I'm not sure if I ever sent it to you, but I think I referred to it a lot. It was on ego transcendence that I heard.
I think you mentioned it.
What it says is when we're born, we essentially see the world revolves around us. Like, you're a baby, give me my milk, give me this, the world revolves around me. As you get a little bit older, you see the world as you and your immediate family. As you get a little bit older, you see the world as it being you, your immediate family, then your peers, right? Your friends. Then you see it, your immediate family, your peers, and then people who believe the things you believe. And they say that's where a lot of people will stop. Right? So you'll see, like, okay, I've gotten to this point where I've surrounded myself with everyone who either I've grown up with or people that I know or people who share my beliefs, but I haven't ventured out beyond that. And I think the minute we start to break away from ourselves is when we understand that the way we were brought up was just a way to be brought up.
A way.
It was just a way to be brought up.
Yeah.
If someone rolled the dice, whether you be the universe or God, and you happen to come down in a place where this is how you were programmed. And that, I think, at some point you have to start being able to put into proper perspective. Right?
No, that definitely is a way. That's the circumstance you were brought upon, and like, And so, a lot of times, that's why it's so important to explore.
Yes.
Right? Step out of your comfort zone.
Well, I guess we start talking about curiosity. Right? So I think a big part of changing is just trying things out. If we, and we've seen this time and time again, if we decide, you know what? I'm gonna be a morning person tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that's usually where we lose it, because
Right.
like, I knew I wasn't a morning person. This bullshit didn't work. And then we're off, versus saying, I'll try this for a week, see how I feel,
Right.
and then make some adjustments to that.
Yeah.
And I think, and this is big in terms of like when you get fitness, nutrition, wellness advice, is this whole all or nothing mentality. Like, newsflash, you can make adjustments to shit, right? So let's say I want to change my way of eating, and then I come across a vegan lifestyle, and somebody say, well, you know, you can be all plant-based. You're like, I still love chicken, or I still love fish. Okay,
Right.
we'll just make adjustments to that vegan lifestyle, and then adopt it for you. But sometimes we think, well, I can't go all the way vegan, so forget it altogether.
Right. Don't even go. They don't
even
try.
go all together.
Yeah,
so it's like
don't try.
experiment, adjust things, and understand that we're all different.
Right.
Yeah.
That goes in so many, like, that's so applicable to so many areas in life. Like, I think we all go through, like, nothing's ever constant, right? Like, they go through seasons. Like, so for me, like, when it comes to relationships, like, I've been more single or like in more like casual situations than in a serious relationship.
Okay.
In my life, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm with somebody where we're really like getting to become more committed, at first it's gonna be scary because it's like, damn, I'm not used to this.
Yeah.
But is that gonna be a reason for me to not give it a shot? The only way that I can know if that's even something for me is to try it.
Is to try it.
Because I know for me, going back to how I've always been, I'm comfortable there. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm comfortable there. I can live my life.
Oh, this ain't working out for you? Cool.
No, we know the drill. Like, I already I have a whole
Right.
protocol. Like, I go back to the gym, work out, like, do all things that I always do.
Yeah.
Go back to my friends. I'm good.
Good money.
Don't need you.
What you thought?
I don't need you.
Who you thought you ran into right now? I'm good.
You really think I need you? I've been good, you know. But it's like, okay, well, the only way, if there's part of me that's curious or even wants to feel some type of fulfillment in a committed relationship, I have to be able to give that a chance.
Yeah.
And if I don't, it's because I'm just not aligned with that person.
Yeah.
But not because, oh, no, like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
You know.
And also too, not jumping all the way into it. Right. So just like you said, we've been around each other for so many years. Your life, Soph, is so packed, right? So now, I don't care who it is. If you go from you and being here and being there and calling your friend, what's going on, girls? I gotta go to this ice bath, and then I gotta go sing this song. Like, and then you just and then jump into. You're gonna throw your body and soul in the shock, right? But now if you meet somebody like, hey, let's hang out a little bit more.
Let's see.
Okay, a little bit. And a little bit, and then it's more of a gradual progression. Right. Yeah. Shoulder taps.
Yeah, it's always interesting because, like, how do you deal with things that you really want, right? The things that you desire, but then continue to be who you are.
Yes.
Like, how do you find that balance? And sometimes you kind of have to go up and down and then find your way, and then find your way back in the middle.
You know, we sometimes stumble on things in conversations, and you sometimes say things that just resonate.
Yeah.
And you said kind of find out who we are.
Yeah.
So it's almost like when we're talking about change, it's gonna always revolve around who we believe ourselves to be. With anything. Right? So whether it's I'm the person who has to be right, right? Or so I'm not gonna speak out because then I'll lose that perception. That belief of ourselves and that identity is gonna be things that either enhance or decrease our chance of making a change.
Right.
And then let's even say myself, where it's like, no, I have to convince everybody to be level-headed. Everybody gotta be level-headed. And it's like, because I feel like that's so important to me. Right? But it's like these things that you just can't hold on to.
Yeah.
And then I think when we're talking about diet and exercise, if we tell ourselves, I've always been this person, whether it's the person that goes super hard or the person who decides, I just eat late, I just drink beers, that's who I am.
That's who I am.
That we have to like completely, and let's even take this a step further. How many times have we seen people have insane changes from Zaina to Emily, right? So many people that have come through these doors where it's like insane,
Real,
where you don't even recognize the people anymore.
Right.
And usually what it is, it's like something that just says, you know what, today's the day I'm gonna start. And the one consistency over the years that I've seen, I'm sure you've seen as well, is that even when they've had their bad 2 or 3 days, they still keep going.
Oh yeah.
Right?
They get back they get right back.
Exercise.
Which is almost faith in whatever you decide on doing.
Yeah.
Faith. So even though I can't see it, even though I can't see this person yet that I want to become, or these changes that I want to make, even though I'm not there yet, I have faith that I can stay with it and get there.
Or when you don't feel like doing it. When you don't feel like getting up and doing that workout. You don't feel like recording or doing anything. It's like faith, going back to that faith in the decision that you made. That decision, like I think you were telling me this one day, like you have to be able to go back to that person that made that decision to change and have faith in
that person. Have faith in that person. Because that person had all the information. That person wasn't your emotional self, right? The person that sat down on a Sunday and looked back at your life and said, we're going to make these changes. And then you woke up Monday and didn't feel like doing it. You got to trust that person from Sunday.
That person.
Who laid out that plan for you.
Yeah, that's so good. That's huge.
Yeah, we'll go lunch hop. I have a friend who would ask consistently, we would have this discussion, well, do you think people could change? And I'm like, it's such a layered question. Right? 3, 2, and 1. And for me, I truly believe unless that motivation comes from here, it's impossible. So if you decide, or if you one day it's somebody outside who says, you know what, you're too skinny. So in order to appease them, you go and try to put on weight, or the other way around. Somebody says, you know what, you're too overweight, you're too fat. You say, I don't want them to say it anymore. So that is never gonna work.
No.
Right? It has to come from inside. I think that's where all the change has to come from. And 1. Then we'll go plank to downward.
Okay. Do you know?
No, go ahead.
Oh no, man! I was gonna ask you. Do you know anybody from your personal life that has gone through like a major transformation that you can be like, yeah, no, it is possible for people to change?
I have 2 that come into mind.
Okay.
Right? 2, 1. Good. So I'll talk from the fitness side first, and I'll come from like the more like emotional, personal change. So one, and I can say his name because he's a good friend of mine. Is my boy Henrock.
Oh, Henrock. We love Henrock.
Oh man, Henrock. When we was in high school, Henrock was in shape. So I'm talking about he used to walk out with the tees. And he was ripped. Right?
Okay.
Fast forward a few years later, Henrock became A-shape.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And we always make fun of him, things like that. He always come to me, he's like, yo, Gene, I promise you I'm gonna lose weight, I'm gonna get on it.
Right.
And I'm like, I believe you, but you've been saying this story for a long time, bro. I'm not sure if I could believe you anymore. And it was probably like, I want to say, honestly, a couple weeks ago, one of my homeboys called me like, yo, you seen Rock? I was like, nah, and I haven't talked to him in a while. He's like, yo, he in pretty good shape right now.
Wow.
And then I recall some of the conversations, and what happened is, in all honesty, throughout those years, he just never stopped. He never stopped. He would go for like a month, fall off for a month, go for a month, but he never fully stopped. He would have his moments, and then eventually at one point, he put it all together and it worked. So that was the biggest one I saw, is because it did always come from inside, and he had the patience and consistency to see it happen, right?
Yeah.
The second one,
Good.
I would say, is my mother, right?
Okay.
So my mother is, as most, sorry moms out there, but y'all know y'all like to control things, all right? Y'all know.
A little bit.
A little bit.
A little
you know what
bit.
I'm saying? So my mom.
Like, I only birthed you, so.
So I have to do this. And you know, my mom will call me, Jyima, you know, I want to make sure this person is doing this and this person is doing that, and they didn't do this, and I upset. And I said, Mom,
Right.
you did your job. You said it.
Yeah.
Now you over here venting for 20 minutes because Dad didn't go to the doctors when you told him he had to go to. It's okay. You did your job.
Yeah.
What else you could do?
You know
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But then over time, throughout these conversations, she always wanted to make that change so she was less stressed, right? And now eventually, the calls are a little bit less. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, we gotta run through these. We did the squat jumps? No,
Not
squat
yet.
jumps. Squat jumps in the taps. We got 10 to 10. 10, 9.
So less of those calls.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good, then we'll go taps. You? Anybody you saw make a major change?
Oh yeah, you're talking about your mom.
Hey.
My dad made a change recently.
Huh?
And for the longest time, he was always, when you talk about like the 7 deadly sins in the Bible, they say gluttony is one of them. My dad's a pastor, right? I'm like, that's one thing I always like, man, he's never gonna be able to get over this addiction to food.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And then it was.
And is that your whole life he was addicted?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Recently, maybe in the last couple months, I'm like, my mom was like, oh, your dad's lost like 20 pounds.
Wow.
And I'm, what happened? Are you serious? Yeah, I mean, he'll still eat what he eats, but like it's more controlled, you know, and then he's working out more.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, dang, okay, you never really know how people are gonna change, even when they're older.
But you know,
most of the time you can generalize like, yeah, they're old, which is valid.
Right.
You just really never know. And there's a whole driving force behind that, but that also has a lot to do with it, right?
the consistency between your father and Rock is that it's never too late.
Right.
So sometimes we just can never abandon it, right?
Yeah.
We can never
Cool
abandon
down.
trying and making things work. So just like as your father, years later,
Yeah.
you said your whole life, he finally got to it.
Yeah, he finally
Right?
got to it.
Yeah.
But I will say his workout, he was always consistent.
He was always consistent.
Even when he got weaker, he would still go to the gym.
Okay.
So when it comes to working out, my dad has always put the effort in working out.
Nice.
You know, so maybe that made it a little easier this time to make the change. But yeah, I mean,
It took time.
it took time.
It took time.
But I also had a conversation with him, and I think I said some things that might have triggered and made him have a change of heart.
You know what it is though, and we spoke about this.
Yeah.
There has to be a big motivator.
A big motivator.
There has to be a big motivator.
Yeah, and sometimes it takes one conversation.
One.
To be like, or even for me, like I know the conversations I've had, whether it's with you or somebody really close to me, and it made me really think about my life. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I can't be living the way I've been, I can't be doing this, and that will literally trigger the change.
So
You know?
I think it's almost like there's got to be steps to the change. One is making sure that it's something that you want to do and not
Yeah.
something that somebody else is telling you to do or you're
Right.
reacting
Oh, yeah,
to
yeah,
someone
yeah.
else. Two
Yeah.
is understanding that it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time.
Right.
And I don't think we've seen anybody who just put their switch on and they were just off and running.
Yes.
Right?
At
And-
least when it comes to the change that people are able to maintain,
Yes.
sustainable.
Yes. Yeah.
And the longevity of it, long-term change. Yeah, sure, there's short-term change, and then we see people go back to their old ways. But when it comes to long-term change, like you're talking about Zaina, it was a consistent thing. It took 2 years, a couple
It took
years.
2 years.
Yeah. I mean, you
2
see people would
years.
lose weight all the time, effectively, cool. But then after a few months, they're back on they gain that weight back, right?
Yes.
But
So it's almost saying you don't want it to happen quick,
no,
right? You don't want it to happen quick. You don't want to just.
it's not realistic.
No,
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to maintain
Yeah.
or keep it. So I think that's something big. And I remember I used to work at this youth center, right? And I used to play basketball with the teens in there, right? And they all used to make the same mistake. I get the ball. There was a basketball in the youth center, a basketball hoop. And they start using all their energy in the beginning.
Okay.
And I wait till they burn out. And then I start scoring the points on them, you know?
Yeah.
And I always used to tell them, hey, listen, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So they used to hate it all the time. So we come out and they burn themselves out within the first couple minutes. And then now, while they burnt out, I'm scoring all the points. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think that's something that's always important to remember.
Oh my God, that's huge.
Yeah.
I think because a lot of times we get so impatient with wanting to see that change.
Yes.
And whether it's really good change or not, even when it's a really good change, it's like you still want to take your time.
Yes,
When you go in the direction
yeah.
that you know you're supposed to go,
Yeah.
you still want to take your time.
Yeah.
You know,
still,
like
you
so
still
going
want-
back to the example I gave you in the beginning, where I'm like, oh man, I'm like so, I'm wired to suppress my self-expression. I'm allowing myself to take my time.
Yeah.
You know, so like I pick and choose the conversations. That's one way that I do that. I pick and choose the conversations where I'm more vocal. I pick and choose the people that I'm more vocal. And then maybe eventually I get to everybody or most people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But
You
it's
pick
not
and
like,
choose.
okay, today everybody that I talk to. Hi. Oh yeah, no, I don't like that. You know what I
Matter of
mean?
fact, I've been meaning to tell her how I felt about her. I'm gonna call her up, you know what I mean?
Go down the
And
list of
yeah, and
you
just
know,
get
like
her.
that. It's just not realistic.
Yeah, it's very true.
Yeah.
I know with it's funny. Cheryl just recently, I shouldn't say recently. A few months ago, she went to the doctor and knew she needed to make some adjustments due to her blood work, right?
Okay.
So now here we are, a few months later, now she's really on it. She just
Wow.
put together an insanely good week. I'm talking about, we did Pilates together on Tuesday.
Oh, wow.
She did Pilates at her own on Thursday. Then she trained with me Monday,
that's
Wednesday,
good.
Friday.
Yeah.
So my first, after these 5 days, which she hasn't done before,
Yeah.
I said, take the weekend off.
Right.
Even though you feel good,
Yeah.
take the weekend off, you know?
It's okay.
And then from there, then we'll resume. Not saying there's not going to be a time when you're able to go 6 or 7 days, but
Right.
let's not go so quickly into that ramped up everyday working out yet.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's staying ahead of those things.
Yeah,
You know?
it's all about pacing.
Yes,
that's good.
yeah.
I'll definitely think about that before the other things that I want to change. Yeah.
Pacing yourself?
There's a couple areas in my life though where I could be like, yeah, I could use that. I could use some pacing. But it's good because it puts the pressure, takes the pressure off of you just all of a sudden like making that change.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, you already know, homie. we continue this
And the conversation
on camera,
continues. Oh,
off
yeah,
camera,
yeah.
figure it out. We come back. Okay, no, there was one more thing.
Yeah. There's
We
another
keep
thing.
it up. All right, well, good
All right.
work. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you more.